Today we're talking about money. After watching this video, you know exactly how much it's going to cost you to move to Canada. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Zami. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I have much more on this topic coming your way. And if this isn't your first time, thanks for being a real one. If you want to see something specific on this channel, let me know in the comments so I can go ahead and work on that for you. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the real reason why you're here, which is how much will it cost you to move to Canada on an immigrant visa, specifically the Express Entry Permanent Residency application. Just like any other big life event, when you're considering moving to Canada, you need to really look into the financial cost of the process. But this is where things get a little bit tricky because a lot of people don't realize how expensive the process can be until they're in the process themselves, which can make things very messy and ultimately slow down your plans. I know it can be really hard to do all of this research on your own, especially when you're balancing work, kids, or just life in general. So I went ahead and did all of the research for you guys so that when you're ready to begin the process, you have all of the financial information you need to move forward. After watching this video, you know exactly how much it's going to cost you to move to Canada so you can start saving or planning better with your money ahead of your permanent residency application. As far as the money you need to move to Canada, I've broken it down into two different categories: the money you need to spend and the money you need to put aside. Keep in mind that these figures may change over time depending on when you are watching this video. Because we're talking about Canada and the Naira is constantly fluctuating, we'll be talking about these figures in Canadian dollars, which you can easily convert on Google and get the current conversion rate for whatever currency you be spending, whether it's Naira, USD, or pounds. Moving on to the first category, which is the money you need to spend to move to Canada. There are a few things you need to pay for before your PR application can be processed. I will be going through these things in the order that you probably need to get them done. The first thing on this list is the WEST report. So basically what the WEST does is it assesses your current educational credentials and lets the Canadian Immigration Services know how educated you are based on the credentials that you have. So to get your WEST report, you're going to need to mail your educational credentials to WEST and then have them create a report for you. And for them creating this report, you're going to need to pay a service charge. This service charge is what I will be speaking about later on in this video. When you're processing your WEST, you want to make sure that you're choosing ECA for IRCC. What ECA means is Educational Credential Assessment. And if you're already looking into moving to Canada, you know that IRCC is the name of the organization where you will be submitting your application. So you want to make sure that you're choosing the WEST report that is written as ECA for IRCC. This is a really important piece of information because you don't want to choose the wrong option for the report, because if you choose the wrong option for the report, you're going to have to pay all over again for the correct report. So it is the ECA for IRCC, and I will be telling you exactly how much this report costs later on. The next thing that you need to pay for is the IELTS. So if you haven't already seen my last two videos, make sure you check them out because I give you a foolproof study plan to prepare for your IELTS in only 3 weeks. So it's really important to prepare for your IELTS. In my other video, I spoke in details about how I didn't prepare for my IELTS and I got the scores that reflected that. And then in my most recent video, I shared the study plan that I used that helped me get 9s in my IELTS. So you want to use that study plan so you don't have to pay more than once for the IELTS because, as we know, it's pretty pricey. I'll be telling you the exact price later on in the video, but for now, the first thing you need is the WEST report, the second thing you need is your IELTS, and the third thing you need is the police report. So you're going to need the police report for any country you've lived in. The fourth thing that you'll be paying for your Canadian PR application is your medical. So whether you're moving to Canada for PR or you're moving to Canada for school, everyone has to do the medical exam, which you'll be paying for out of pocket. So you can get your medical exam done at IOM if you are in Abuja or Lagos. I know that there are other organizations that perform this medical exam for you on behalf of IRCC. So it's very important to remember that you cannot just go to any hospital and get this exam done. It needs to be done at an IRCC specific organization. So this is why I'm recommending IOM. I know that there are other organizations that do this test, so make sure you do your research. But in this video, I will be sharing how much it costs to get your IOM medical exams for Canada immigration done. The fifth thing you'll be paying for your Canadian PR application is your application processing fee. Keep in mind that the application processing fee is not the same price for adults and children under 18. So I will be going over how much it costs for adults and how much it costs for kids in this video as well. While you're paying the application processing fee, you will also be required to pay the sixth and seventh thing on my list, which is the right of permanent residency and your biometrics. So the right of permanent residency is a fee that you pay while you're for processing your application. I think you could get this feedback if your application does not have a positive result, so keep that in mind. But children do not pay the right of permanent residency fee. So this fee is strictly for adults, people over 18. If you're going to be traveling with your kids under 18, they will not be required to pay this fee. Finally, the seventh thing is the biometrics. So everyone is required to do their biometrics to process their permanent residency application. So you will be required to pay for it while you're paying for your application. Also, if you've ever applied for any Canadian immigration status, whether it was for school or whether it was for a work visa, you will not be required to pay for this biometrics fee again while COVID is going on. Yeah, so that's all of the things that you will be required to pay for ahead of your Canadian PR application. So I'm going to go over the list one more time so we all know what we're talking about. First thing is WES. The second thing is IELTS. The third thing is the police report. The fourth thing is the medicals. The fifth thing is the application processing fee. The sixth thing is the right of permanent residency. And the seventh thing is the biometrics. So let's get into the juicy part, which is how much do these things actually cost? So for the WES, specifically the ECA for IRCC, which I spoke about at the beginning of this video, that report will cost you $220. There is an additional $10 fee for the standard mailing service. So there is an option for you to pay for the faster couriers like UPS or FedEx, but I honestly don't recommend paying for that because you will get an electronic document of this report. So you don't need to have it mailed to you faster. You can just have it mailed with a $10 fee, which I think is required. So altogether, the WES report should cost you 230 Canadian dollars. The second thing you'll be paying for is the IELTS. So if you will be taking the IELTS in Nigeria, it is 75,000 Naira, which in Canadian equivalent, it is about 250 Canadian dollars. If you will be taking the IELTS in the US, I think it's about $230, but specifically Nigeria is 75,000 Naira, which if we convert it to Canadian dollars, since that's the currency we're using for this video, it comes to $230. The next thing is the police report. If you've lived in any country for 6 months or more, you would need to get a police report from all those countries as well. So in Nigeria, the police report can cost anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 Naira, which in Canadian equivalent, it's about $18 to $34. But if you will be getting your police report from the US as well, it costs $18. And if you'll be getting a police report from the UK, it costs 55 pounds. So we're just going to go with the Nigerian price for a police report and hope that you don't have to do any other one. But if you do, stack that onto your money calculation as well. So the Nigerian police report equivalent in Canadian dollars is about $34. So let's move on to the fourth thing, which is your medicals. Medicals in Nigeria cost 46,500, which in Canadian equivalent, it comes to $160. Honestly, the price for the medicals depends on where you are. So I think Nigeria so far is the cheapest that I've heard for the medicals, which is 160 Canadian dollars. In the US, it can be as high as $500 to get your medicals done, and similarly in the UK. So if we're sticking to the Nigerian price for the medicals, it is 46,500, which comes to 160 Canadian dollars. The fifth thing you'll be paying for to move to Canada is your application processing fee. So for an adult, the application processing fee is 825 Canadian dollars. But for children, it is $225. So if you will be traveling as a parent, you should know that the application processing fee for your child is not going to be the same price as yours. So if we're using just one person's application fee, the application processing fee is 825 Canadian dollars. The next thing is the right of permanent residence fee, which is 500 Canadian dollars. As I said earlier, children are not required to pay this fee. So if you're traveling with your children, you will only be paying for yourselves. So it is $500, and to add that to the application fee, it brings the application fee and the right of permanent residency to 1,325 Canadian dollars. Finally, the last thing that you will be paying for, which is the biometrics, is $85. So you will be paying these last three things together on the IRCC website. So the last three things that I mentioned are the application processing fee, which is 825 Canadian dollars, the right of permanent residence fee, which is $500, and then biometrics, which is $85, which brings all three things to a total of 1,410 Canadian dollars. So you will be paying 1,410 Canadian dollars all at once through the Canadian immigration website, which is the IRCC website. And you will only be required to pay this fee when you have all of your information ready to submit the final copy of your permanent residency application, which ultimately begins the processing time for your PR application. Just to make sure that we're pulling everything in, I'm going to tack on a little miscellaneous fee of 165 Canadian dollars. You know, I spoke earlier about having to mail your results to West to have that report created for you, and you're going to be paying for a lot of other things while you're processing your applications, like passport photographs, and if you need a new passport document, and a bunch of other things. So I'm going to just tack on that 160 miscellaneous fee and add that to all of the money that you will need to be spending while you are getting ready to submit your application for the Canadian Express Entry Permanent Residency. In total, everything that I've mentioned comes down to a total of 2,265 Canadian dollars for a single applicant. So this is not including your kids if you have kids, or your spouse if you have a spouse. This is just one person's cost of application. Watch the video again so you can calculate how much it's going to cost your kids to travel with you or your spouse to travel with you. But for now, I'm just talking about a single applicant, and the total money you will need to spend as a single applicant for the Canadian Express Entry Permanent Residency application is 2,265 Canadian dollars. Next, let's talk about the money you will need to show that you have as an applicant for the Canadian permanent residency. On the IRC website, this is referred to as your proof of funds. This is the required amount of money that you need to have in your bank account to prove that when you do relocate to Canada, you will not become a liability to the government. So this is money that you will use to set up yourself in Canada when you do move. So this is some kind of transitioning money, and because Canada doesn't want you to move to Canada and become a liability for the country, they want to make sure that you have this money to resettle in Canada. So it's not optional. You have to show them that you have this amount of money in your bank account at the time of your application. So if you don't have your money liquid, or if you have investments or bonds or whatever, you're going to need to plan ahead to make sure that you have this amount of money to show in your bank account for at least 6 months before your application. So I'm going to be going over how much money you need to show as a single applicant or a family of 2, 3, 4, 5, and onward. So you're going to need to provide this proof of funds, which is typically your bank statement, to the IRCC at the time of your PR application. But if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the permanent residency application for Canada, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I have so much more on this topic coming to this channel soon. So keep an eye out for that. And the easiest way to do that is by subscribing to my channel. So let's get into how much money you need to have in your bank account to show as proof of funds during your application. I'll be starting with a single applicant's proof of funds. So as of the time of your application, and at least 6 months before that time, you need to have 12,960 Canadian dollars. So this is what you need to have in Canadian dollars, but not necessarily Canadian currency. So you can have the equivalent in Naira in your Nigerian bank account, or your American bank account, or your UK bank account, wherever you are. It doesn't need to be Canadian dollars that you have. You just need to have the currency equivalent in your bank account, and you need to show this to IRCC as your proof of funds. So this is typically in your bank statement. So you will just get your bank statements from 6 months earlier and just show that you have this amount of money to relocate to Canada and settle down without being a burden to the Canadian government. So this money is so important. So I'm going to go over how much you need as a single applicant, how much you need as a family of 2, how much you need as a family of 3, 4, and onwards. So as a single applicant, as I've already said, you need to have 12,960 Canadian dollars. For a family of 2, you need to have $16,135 in your bank account. For a family of 3, you need to have 19,836 Canadian dollars in your bank account. For a family of 4, you need to have $24,083 in your bank account. For a family of 5, you need to have 27,315 Canadian dollars in your bank account. For a family of 6, you need to have 30,806 Canadian dollars in your bank account. For a family of 7, you need to have 34,299 Canadian dollars in your bank account. Keeps going on and on and on the bigger your family is. I hope I've been able to reach your family size in this list that I just went over, but if I didn't, go ahead and head over to the IRCC website where you will find all of the information you need. I'm going to go back to talking about how much it's going to cost for a single applicant to move to Canada with the Express Entry Permanent Residency application. Altogether, including the money you need to spend and the money you need to put aside, the total for a single applicant is 15,227 Canadian dollars. And that's it, guys. I know that money talk is a little bit scary, especially when it's stacked up, but I really hope that this video is helpful to you in some way. While you're still here, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up for me. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That helps me out a bunch, and this way you won't miss out on any helpful information that I put out on this channel. I'm going to go ahead and close out this video right here. Don't forget to check out my IELTS study plan video, which can save you a lot of money on the IELTS. Good luck with everything, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!